All right, it is Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. It is 6:08 p.m. This is the 5:30 board meeting for the Albany County Land Bank Corporation Board of Directors. We do have a quorum present: Joe, Natisha, Mark, Juanita, and Sam. Thank you. Sam, you're vice chair, so I'll turn it over to you.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Sean, you already sort of did roll call, but do you want to announce staff as well?
Yep, and got Will and Lynette with us here as well.
Awesome. Do we have any public comment to go through tonight?
None received and nobody's here.
Perfect. Next item, review and approval of prior meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Juanita, second by Natisha. Any comments on the minutes? Any questions? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Unanimous.
All right, I didn't hear Mark abstain or say no, so.
Perfect. Next item, report of the executive director. Sean.
Thank you. I'll bring the slides up here just to get you caught up on where we are. Some of the most important things I think we said before, 257 Street, 2nd Street is 257 2nd Street is completed. We did have an event there today to take the red X off the building, although it had been taken off the building already. We recreated another one and put the for sale sign in the window. So that was a good turnout by folks from the county, from the city. Senator Pat Fahey joined us as well. So that was a good piece that went along there. We have started moving, we did open the Pioneer bank accounts. And I did let M&T know why we had to go and do that, and they understood. And I think there was some disappointment locally that we found ourselves in that situation by the decision that was made corporately at their level. But those are in there. So just so for full transparency to the board, this week I will wire about $3.3 million. It's a big number that I want on the record. Out of M&T into Pioneer. It's going to go from savings to savings, and from there we will seed our other accounts at Pioneer. And what we've received in from Pioneer is we've received checks just on our operating checking account and deposit slips and deposit stamps for our savings account. The other two accounts are payroll account and our grants account. The grant account is where the state sends money into for reimbursement, and then our payroll account is where money comes out of. It's a checking account. Along that way. So that's going to happen soon. And then the other piece is I'll reach out to the board. We pay about $200 a month for a Zoom license. Our Microsoft Teams subscription, our Microsoft Teams accounts can let us do a lot of the same things. So we're going to save that $200 a month. We're going to discontinue our Zoom account. So we're going to send out new links for the committee meetings. The plus side of those is that you'll be able to connect to those with a smartphone. We can actually put the visuals up for you instead of just being voices on the phone, and people can actually see it's a little bit more interactive. Potential downside is whether or not I always have a phone number. So we're going to test that out, and I'll put some test emails out for you all to jump in just so you know how it looks and feels and works. That gives us a little bit more control in the background for that. But that'll save us $200 a month, and I don't think that's anything to bat an eyelash at.
So when are you gonna discard the checks from M&T?
What we're doing with M&T in the short term is to maintain a relationship. We're gonna keep some money on hand. So I'm not gonna close all those accounts out, but this week, the goal is to get those accounts down to the FDIC insurance limit and then move all the other money over to Pioneer. So that way we still have, God forbid something happens somewhere else or they straighten things out. We just have different options. We have different directions to go into.
Did we get a toaster? Oh, no, that's old.
No. But they sent us new checks and everything, so I'll take that over.
2025, we should be getting an iPad.
Well, and speaking of that too,
That part.
we take, this month this wasn't a lot of paper, but some months there's a lot of paper. So we may look at getting tablet devices or something for the board, so that way we're not, I think Lynette estimates we went through like 2 weeks of paper last month, just, printing board materials out. But we're gonna evaluate that along the way. We would still email this stuff out to you, but instead of printing this all out, we would have a tablet with the PDF and we can flip through there along the way. But before we make any changes, just wanna just get your feedback on those things as we go there. Other than that, it's been a busy month. Elizabeth is leaving us on Friday. She was recruited by a private consulting firm. And so she is going into that space.
Elizabeth.
Our community engagement coordinator. So what we did is we tweaked, we're all involved in community engagement one way or the other. And I know, Shelby's very much interested in the community engagement pieces. So we post an operations coordinator because that's where we really need, this operations all day long between what Lynette's doing, a coordinator, and then even an assistant, because the other thing that we're going through is, how much we're paying on our rehabs. And some of that we're paying for the cost of somebody serve as our general contractor. Lynette and I are gonna work through and see what that savings potentially looks like. And if we can add somebody to the staff and break even on that, that's great. If we can do even better and save more money by handling it ourselves, then that puts us in a better financial position moving forward too. So everything's about strategy.
I meant to email you, Sean, to let you know that the link on LinkedIn for that position, you can't click on it.
Okay.
And for some reason, from my phone, I can't copy and paste it. So I don't know,
What's the salary range on that?
45, I think?
Yeah, we started at 45. And then what happens is that we have sort of a progression from, we have and this goes really for every role too, depending on where it is, but we have an assistant role, coordinator role, a specialist, a manager, and then director of that portfolio. So that is the quick, short version. I know we got a late start, so.
But is that?
How do you get invited when you do these events like at 257 Second Street?
I gave our PR, the person who's helping us with PR, had a contact list. He should have reached out to you.
Didn't,
All right,
No, I didn't get it out.
Yeah.
I didn't
Okay.
get it either.
all right. I know we were getting press quotes and everything, so I apologize if that got missed.
Because I'm available during the day. I'm a
Yeah.
retiree.
Yeah, okay. All right. 79 Elizabeth Street, I think is
You
gonna
don't
be the
have to
next
throw it in
one.
some of our faces. You don't have to throw it in our faces.
Our next one will be 79 Elizabeth Street.
You saw.
So we'll, once that gets to the spot where this one is, because that also had a red X on it, right? So, once we get that to a point and we're ready to market it for sale, we'll do the same thing. We're gonna go down there, we're gonna take the X away, we're gonna put the for sale sign up. And we'll have to redo some of the for sale signs. One of the things I'm being very deliberate about is not using the color red in things, because of the history of redlining. So our for sale signs that we have upstairs have, what would you call those pieces that go with the sign?
With the riders.
The riders, yeah, they're all red. So, the sold sign, the for sale sign, sale pending, they're all red. And so,
Was that a recommendation of the marketing person based on the psychology of marketing?
no, it was a recommendation by me that I did run past the PR guy, and he thought that made a lot of sense, is that
Because I never got that from the for sale sign, so I'm just asking.
yeah,
But I also know there's a psychology behind marketing, so.
yeah. On that, it's more about just the sensitivities, because there are certain things that, there are certain things that we don't say, because in the areas we work in, they might mean something. I'll give you a good example of it, right? Is that when we go to do a quick inspection, somebody might say, well, that's a drive-by inspection. No, that's a wellness check. Because in some of our neighborhoods, a drive-by is a different thing, and it is not a positive thing. So we don't do a drive-by inspection. We do wellness checks. So we're very, very deliberate in the terms and phrases that we use, because we know that there are some impacts that these things could have on a community, so.
I wanted to go back to salaries. Are we, in your opinion, do you feel that because it just feels like people keep stealing our people.
Are you asking, do we have competitive salary?
Yeah. Do you feel that way? Or is that something we need to like look at in the future?
Well, what I think that we provide is more of a career pathway and ladder that other places don't. That it's harder to, you sort of get in, you get your annual adjustments. We give people a clear pathway to advance themselves.
Okay.
So if somebody came in as an operations assistant, we're gonna look to them and when we work with them, we don't just give them the responsibilities of the assistant. We're also training them for that next step to be a coordinator. And as a coordinator, training them for that next step to be a specialist, which in like that is a little bit more independent, a little more independent in judgment and thinking and not having to run something past me all the time. Is that, we've gotten to a point where I think that they, are quite confident in their ability to handle things. Will and Lynette, have a lot more independent judgment and freedom on how they do their work every day because they're just at that, they're at that level that, we don't need to check in on things on a regular basis. They know when an issue needs to rise to me and they need my help with it or my input on it or my sign off on it. And so that's what we do with folks is there's a little bit more of that. I think Will's a really good example of somebody who's moved through the steps here. We've had other staff have done the same thing. But I'll do an exit interview with Elizabeth too. It'll be, certainly a question that we'll ask him. But I think with Elizabeth and with Shelby, I think, we gave them a competitive salary to come in. There's a lot of pluses. There's a lot of non-monetary advantages to working on this team.
On the positive side, some
Compared to
fact
the
that somebody,
state, your salaries are great.
the fact that somebody,
Depends on what grade, what agency, there's a lot of factors.
We provide parking.
That's a
a
low
big deal.
blow.
That's a big deal.
That's a low blow.
We got parking.
the silver lining here is we clearly have had talent to steal, right?
Mhm.
So,
Right.
silver lining,
We're doing something.
doing something right.
Mhm.
And I don't, it's, I like that, you never want somebody to leave the team, but at the same point, we also my approach on it, and I think the rest of the team does too, is that, people leave, they leave, with a good experience and they're friends and allies out there that also continue to spread the good news of the work that we're doing. So we still have allies and supporters out there. We don't want somebody leaving because they're upset. I don't want somebody leaving because they're upset with what it's like working here. I'd much rather than somebody leave because they've grown.
Right. Well, I just want to make sure, we don't lose Will or Will.
Yeah.
Just trying to let you know. Keep an eye on it.
Will can't go anywhere, he knows that already.
Oh, really? I don't know.
I think Juanita had a question there.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Just want to make sure. Sorry.
And Lynette is a rock star too, so. Anyway,
Look at you, compliments to go around today.
I just wanted to make sure our staff know that we're keeping an eye on it. Keeping it short.
But I also think this is like, those positions are entry-level positions, right? And so the young and the hungry, as soon as I know when I was young and I was hungry, yeah, I can sit in a job and I can do the job very well, but as soon as I see that carrot that's a little bigger, give me a little bit more responsibility, I'm young, I'm trying to, establish myself, I'm building my career, I'm gonna leave anyway. So the fact that, like, to Sam's point, we are doing something right, if people are are coaching and instilling our people, we're training them, right?
That sounds good. Let me move on.
Yeah, next item, report of committees.
Well, let me, let me just give you this update on these and I'm gonna fly through these, so let me know if I missed something. And I'll just hit the high notes on this. South End is moving ahead. They're working with Capitalize Albany on what Capitalize Albany can do to help advance this project financially. Probably look at the form of a pilot to, establish and fix what the tax payments are going to be or the payment in lieu of taxes. And that helps stabilize the pro formas on these pieces, so they're doing that. We've got to help them with a little bit of information on their assessed values, but everything's moving along quite well there. Happy with the progress. Henry Johnson Boulevard, we're talking with home leasing on this project. They're running into some capacity issues on phase, after doing phase 1 and phase 2, but if you look at the timeline, I mean, we're at that municipal approval stage, so I think the goal is to either they find another partner to work with, or get this project that far along, and then have somebody else take it from that point.
Right.
So
It's not uncommon at this stage for, once you have an approved project, if you don't have the capacity to do it, you can sell it essentially to someone else to do, right?
Exactly. So we may see that.
And what role do we play in that though? If they sell it to someone, do we get to say whether or not?
Yeah, we'll have to vet them out. I think they have some assignment ability in the contract, but we have some.
We have some say as to
Right.
whether or not.
Because we and the city selected them through an RFP process.
Brian Lawler believes that we
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming the city would have some.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have enough teeth in our agreements with them
Okay.
to
manage that.
Right.
Perfect.
Ontario and West Streets, this one was a little bit of a delay in game. The city departments at first were not sure about the cul-de-sac. And so the engineer went back and gave them a couple of options. We had that meeting with the technical review committee last week and decided that cul-de-sac was actually the best option all along. A connection out to Bradford at the top was not seen as favorable. And then a hammerhead in place of the cul-de-sac would have required garbage truck. Emergency vehicles have to do 3-point turns to get back out of there. So they'll have to adjust the radius on this. So it's a little bit of engineering work, but that's back on track again. And so we're happy to see that. Take a ride by 135 Ontario, 260 Bradford. They are cleaning those buildings out. So
Good.
Pat Shue and his team, and we closed that last month. They are at work redeveloping that. So that's exciting to see that one move along. And then on the Flip the Block initiative, Will's gotten the initial application into Homes and Community Renewal for the AHOP funding. We have a conference call with HCR tomorrow because I think they're actually going to want us to take a look at the block by block program. We initially didn't think we knew that was a vehicle for us for the 2 families because there was a 10 home limit, but it appears that it's a 10 home limit, and then we can come back in for another 10 homes. So we may be able to sequence those together. It does mean that we have to sequence the project, and that we can't do AHOP and block by block concurrently, but given the scale, given the number of homes that we're gonna do in that neighborhood, we probably end up sequencing some of that anyway.
Is Larch Street part of any of that?
Lark Street?
Yeah. Are we doing
No,
anything?
no.
That Larch Street? Larch Street.
I thought we did have a building on Larch Street.
No, we talked about, there was the city was negotiating a settlement with JP Morgan
Oh, yes.
on that, so still waiting for that to get wrapped up.
Yeah.
But I can hopefully update you in about a month on that.
Okay.
But I expect us to see it one way or the other. I'll just put it that way.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
anything to add, Will?
Next item, report of committees, finance, anything from finance?
So, in your packets are the minutes from the finance committee meeting. Still got cash in the bank. Just a little bit, I rang the good news in March that our net revenue was up. But we're back in that other position for March, and that's the timing in the beginning of the year. We pay a lot of stuff out early, and we're waiting for other projects to close too. So I'm not overly concerned about it. It's a negative 262 in net revenue, but I do know we have $100,000 from HCR that has to come in for phase 1. There's probably another disbursement due on phase 2. So I don't see that being an issue as we move forward there. Profit and loss, everything else is holding well. Teams are really great about controlling any expenditures going out, trying to keep that to an absolute minimum. And as you see, nothing is sacred. Zoom is going to be cut and save us $200 a month, but it adds up. it adds up month by month. Any questions on the finance committee minutes?
A&D?
A and D, we have one
Maybe-
resolution,
Yeah.
number 12 here. A and D committee looked at, they had 8 applicants for 7 properties. Let me start from the bottom and then work my way to the top.
Do we need to vote, do we need to vote on the,
Oh,
resolution?
yeah, just
Yeah.
motion to
Oh, I'm
begin.
sorry, a motion and a second, then we'll go to
Do you
discussion.
have a motion to begin
So moved.
in a second?
Mark, second.
Motion by Natisha, second by Mark. Okay. Go ahead.
All right, for discussion, yes, so we'll start from the bottom and move our way up. 164 and 166 Livingston Ave, the board had previously approved the transfer and sale of that to Freddie Young. Unfortunately, he's having some challenges with the construction financing there. And so we did take that back to A&D to consider the alternate buyer. But the recommendation, staff recommendation was to transfer to the alternate buyer because that's what we had done previously. But after discussion, we've decided to hold that for banking because it's 2 30-foot lots, 60 feet across altogether, 140 feet deep. So we think there's a home building opportunity there. So either we do it or somebody else does. So that's where we are with that. We're going to hold that one. 311 First Street. That's another one that somebody applied for regarding. We took a look. We have a potential enforcement action at 309 First Street because that property is out of compliance. And so we've recommended holding that, and the A&D committee agreed with that. As part of that, we would refund the application fees back to the applicant because we're not denying her because of anything that, and anything on her. It's just a matter of we want to bank that because we'll have, again, 2 lots together. All great discussions for a real estate committee. The next 3, this is going to be 585 3rd Street, 540 Clinton Avenue, 23 Babcock Street. These are ones from an applicant. We don't have enough information there. The proposal is rather ambiguous and wasn't always consistent, so we just asked to table that till next month and see if we can get resolution to that. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't move forward on it. The last one is 5 Sargent Street in the city of Cohoes. 2 applicants there. We are recommending the sale to application 3520. That is going to be to allow that for driveway and parking. The applicant owns 7 Sargent Street. That is a challenging piece of property with the topography there. And Joe knows it from his prior roles. I believe that the committee agreed that that's a good direction to go. So the resolution would just be to approve the sale of 5 Sargent Street to applicant 3520.
Any further questions or discussion?
No, but I do want to put on a record that one of the reasons why we have the applicant numbers is so that we don't have to say the applicant name, and I know it wasn't intentional, but Sean did say one of the applicant names, so I just want to put on record that it wasn't like intentional. We do we try to use the applicant number as much as we can.
Awesome. All those in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any abstain, any nays? Motion's unanimous. Next item on the agenda, next committee enforcement and compliance. Any reports from that committee?
Just an update, there were 4 items for enforcement and compliance this month. 1 from the buyers, 3 from the staff. 35 Lark Street was a buyer request to release the reverter. They had completed the work on this project, and they do owe back taxes, but we did recommend the review of potential release contingent on vetting the new buyer and resolution that on the outstanding taxes. It wouldn't be uncommon that those taxes are resolved at the closing date. And so that was our recommendation. There were no objections from the committee on that. The next 2 are staff items, and these are just to start the process. It's not that we're actually going to do anything to take the deed back or to foreclose on it. 297 Ontario Street and 485 E Street is one that was sold in 2019, the expected completion in 2021. 485 Yates was just deemed unsafe in January 2025. That's actually a garage on the backside of the property. This is a complicated one that we discussed in the committee, has a little,
Yeah,
yeah,
committee members recall that when we sold this property initially, there was an unusual lease arrangement with the adjacent property owner that involving the apartments above the former bogies. And so we just asked staff to go back and do a little research into that and make sure we actually do want to take this property back, because I recall at the time, Adam and Amanda pretty adamantly were like, we shouldn't have taken this property in the first place because of how unusual some of the legal arrangements were around it.
basically the second floor has the apartment extends from the first building to the second building over the top of the second building on a separate parcel, which is very irregular.
Very unusual.
Very
Yes.
unusual, that's it, yes.
So the current owner owns the first floor, but not the second floor, if you can imagine it.
Yeah.
That way, which is not an ideal situation.
So we won't do anything until we have that for sure addressed. And so we started to note that because that was not something we had noted in our new property, so we started to take notes on that. 51 Westerlo Street, that was sold in March of 19. Project was supposed to be completed in March of 20. Only one inspection was done. We did an extension through December of 22. There were no updates. Taxes were over 24 and 25, so we did recommend starting that notification process. And Atisha, I apologize. I think you got spelled.
I see,
correct,
I was gonna
Letitia.
say,
Thank you.
I was gonna ask you, have you heard back from her, because I did put a phone call out.
I don't know if Susan has, or we'll have to check with Susan,
Okay.
because Susan will handle this. So we'll correct those minutes. And then last one was 1219 7th Avenue in Waterville, sold in 2019 with a quick claim deed, no enforcement mortgage. The owner did flip the property in 2021 without prior approval. There was a new house there. We just recommend closing the file as the enforcement rates have sunset. So we're not going to do anything more with that, but we just want to, for transparency's sake, let the committee know that we'd like to close that file out. There was no objection there, so we'll move those ahead.
Enforcement and Compliance Committee.
It's underserved communities.
Oh, I'm sorry, Underserved Communities Committee.
That's right, all the minutes look the same. So that committee met to review the committee's charge and had a very good discussion on the underserved communities definition. I know Shelby was gonna follow up, but she's been out with family. And so I think we have to circle back on that. We'll also send Shelby along with some fair housing background too, because as we do this, we have to be very careful not to cause a potential conflict with fair housing on anything that we do with underserved communities in regards to establishing any priorities or, different treatment for any individual population, because we'll start to get ourselves into a fair housing quandary.
Something I should note for that, Albany is one of 3 cities in the state to have a real, actual fair housing officer, who is happy to, help review that kind of stuff and make sure everybody's on the up. So she's happy to work with folks in a proactive manner on that. So if you need a connection there, just let me know. I'm happy to connect.
Yeah, we can talk to that committee and see if they'd like to maybe have the fair housing officer from the city come in and just talk about that.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing, and this is what I had asked Shelby to discuss, was just a thing that with the assault on DEI, one way I think that we can combat that is doing what we've always done, which is recognizing that we do our best to reach out to as many people as possible, and that, individually, my network isn't perfect, Lynette's network isn't perfect, all of our networks are imperfect. And then we're very deliberate to make sure that we are doing our best to reach out to everybody and anybody in a community. because I don't have all the connections. I have a lot of connections, but I don't have all of them. And I think that's just the theme, is that, how do we incorporate inclusivity in an environment that's, potentially hostile to the whole idea. And so we recognize that our networks are imperfect, and we endeavor to do our best to improve upon them, always. And so, we'll reach back out along the way to make sure that we are trying to complete that network as best as we can.
I said this on a call during a meeting, but I think the best way, and I would love to hear Mark's input, not right now, but like when we get the policy back, but I do think the best route to go for this is gonna be by zip codes.
Yeah,
To use the underserved zip codes, because anything else could potentially put us in with the issue of fair housing.
it allows us to, I think we don't get into a situation that we could be accused of treating one portion of the community differently based on a characteristic. But what we can do is we can identify, we know, we can pull up the red line maps, and we can overlay the zip codes, and where a zip code has a significant presence in that area, we can identify that as an underserved community.
Or a neighborhood, or,
Yeah. The best way to be, and I think, because also we want to be able to report on our effect of serving underserved communities, so we can amend some of our, just even our intake materials. We already collect zip codes, so we can easily tell you that. But even if somebody comes in upstairs and signs in, we can add zip code to there just to collect that data along the way. And just help us sort of survey how much we're impacting those communities. So we can establish a baseline as to where we are, and then as we make changes to our practices to see if we're really moving the needle on outreach, to our underserved communities by the zip codes we're hearing from. So.
And maybe you could work with either UAlbany or Sienna with their urban development departments to see, speaking of surveying, really find out from those communities how we're doing. Maybe there are people in zip codes that say, hey, I only been here from the last day. So I'm just saying to save money, so that you don't have to do all the work.
UAlbany has an amazing urban community development instructor that I've got his phone number.
We'll say on top of the amazing instructor, who I've only heard rumors of, I've never met.
Who happens to be in his room.
Yeah. No,
Might have been.
2013, 14, so I went to UAlbany for urban planning, and one of the classes was actually tasked with putting a disposition plan of the south end together for the land bank before it was created. So probably never went anywhere, but there are kids looking to do some good work.
Oh, yeah. No, I know a few, but.
Yeah, last semester we did the urban community development, did look at our inventory and try to shake out some ideas. So I've got to find time to proofread and compile all that, and I can, share them with you. I'd love to get the students in, but that semester, I feel like after COVID, the semester books right by. I don't know why. I don't know what happened in terms of scheduling. It's the same schedule, but it's
It always
on
feel
before
very
really.
slow for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on which end you're in.
That's true. Yeah.
Any new business?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered everything for you tonight.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
first by Tisha, second by Mark. All those in favor? Nay, abstain, motion carries. We're adjourned.
Great job.